Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now just 31 days away from its official release by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, as well as creator George Lucas. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, a lot of fans right now for The Rise of Skywalker are either very excited about this movie or are very concerned or just very apathetic about the film and just really not looking forward to it. There's a lot of mixed reactions when it comes to, of course, Disney's take on Episode 9 and how it's all going to really tie everything together for the entire Skywalker saga that started back in 1977. Now, obviously, we do know that Disney and Lucasfilm went through a series of changes during the months of August, September, and October, and that during those shifts, they actually deleted many different sequences for The Rise of Skywalker, including a big highlight of the movie that was said to add in a complete different medium to the franchise and how the Force would be utilized in Episode 9 that was created by J.J. Abrams and George Lucas that was completely deleted from the final cut of Episode 9. Now, with that being said, what's rather unfortunate has all to do with one of the big segments in the second and the beginning of the third act of Episode 9, where it's described that during the months of August, September, and October is when many of the rewrites and reshoots took place to adjust the second and third acts of the film by Disney and Lucasfilm. It's described that Kathleen Kennedy wanted to have a big change in the overall tone of the movie to create a different direction for the franchise that would end the film. It's established that one of the large segments that both George Lucas and J.J. Abrams worked on was the series of flash fights in the film that would take both Rey and Kylo Ren back to iconic worlds, such as Mustafar, Tatooine, Naboo, and even Endor, just as examples. It's explained that during the reshoots for those months of many of these scenes have been cut by Disney and Lucasfilm, and that the flash fights now in the upcoming film will only be used for some of the brand new worlds in Episode 9. It's described that Disney and Lucasfilm made this decision to not oversaturate the film with too much nostalgia, and that the original take for the flash fights, nearly every planet was going to appear from the Skywalker saga in Rey and Kylo Ren's flash fights. It's explained that one of the major flash fights that were cut from the film was said to involve a segment where both Rey and Kylo Ren would fight in front of Darth Vader's fortress, also known as Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar, sometime in the second act of the movie, where tons of spewing lava would actually be seen in the background between both Rey and Kylo Ren, giving a callback to that of the fight between both Anakin and Kenobi in Revenge of the Sith. It's explained that there would even be segments in which Rey and Ren would fight around Darth Vader's bacta tank, as seen in Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. This was the first scene for the flash fights to be cut during the massive shift to the storyline back in August of this year, where one of the other scenes cut for the flash fights was actually said to involve the world of Tatooine, where both Rey and Kylo Ren were actually said to fight each other with the sabers in front of both Jabba's palace and in front of the iconic Lars homestead. While this happens, it's actually said that a revised track of the Force theme was going to be used during the scene to provide a callback to when Luke was actually looking at the binary sunset in A New Hope, that of course during their battle the binary sunset would be seen in the background. Now, these planets used for the flash fights were all handpicked by George Lucas and were said to be a part of the 30% of the scenes that were deleted that George Lucas directed for the film, as well as what he actually wrote for the movie. It's noted that George Lucas, and of course even wrote the majority of the flash fights of the movie in the initial cut of the film, for both Rey and Kylo Ren to fight through the ages of the Skywalker saga, and that this gave John Williams the opportunity to revise the tracks of all the themes of the actual Star Wars franchise and of the Skywalker saga that are now being used for other scenes to make up for John's recording sessions over the summer of this year. Now, this was a part of the same shift that took place when converting Palpatine as a spirit to him coming back in the flesh alive and well, and as if he never died at the end of Return of the Jedi's ending. So let's go over a couple of parts about this and as to why, in my point of view, that this is a disaster, that this is a terrible decision by Disney and Lucasfilm. Now, a lot of people were looking forward to the flash fights in this sense, in this context where you have both Rey and Kylo Ren fighting throughout the ages of the Skywalker saga, ranging from worlds that debuted in The Phantom Menace leading up all the way until The Last Jedi. In fact, there were even going to be fights on the world of Octu from, of course, The Last Jedi in between both Rey and, of course, Kylo Ren. Now, the thing about this that is such a downfall for the movie is that this is, of course, a large chunk of the 30% of the scenes that were deleted that George Lucas created with J.J. Abrams. And that's exactly why they are trying to make up for those scenes that are not going to be a part of the final cut of Episode 9, regardless of George Lucas piecing the movie back together as we speak, and really trying to make the ending of the film work, and as well as piecing together segments of the second act of Episode 9. Those flash fights are not going to apparently make its way into the final cut of the movie because of the amount of nostalgia oversaturating the film itself, because they already have a lot of nostalgia going into this thing. In my point of view, a lot of nostalgia isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as it has a great purpose behind it all, as long as it serves a great purpose to the overall story and the motives of our characters such as Rey and Kylo Ren, right? So, in my point of view, I think that this would have been a better path to go instead of the series of the lightsaber duels that we are already getting, where one of which is said to be on the world of Pasaana, the other of which is actually said to be inside of Darth Sidious's his throne room, as we saw in Return of the Jedi, as well as on top of the second Death Star. And not to say at least, we also have flash fights that will be coming in this movie, but won't actually be going through the ages of the Skywalker saga, and will feature only on the new worlds in Episode 9, which really doesn't make that much sense to me, because if you're using flash fights as a way to really evolve the concept of the Force, it would have been amazing to emulate or give us little simulations of the past Star Wars, movies and the planets that actually debuted in those past 8 Star Wars films. So a lot of fans were looking forward to, having all these different worlds pop up from point A to point B of the movie, and to have Rey and Kylo Ren essentially fighting in those segments, in those areas of the Skywalker saga. Now, keep in mind that this was not time travel, this was not them going back in time or anything around those lines. This was merely them actually engaging in a Force bond that eventually evolves into a flash fight, where the actual environment around them is a simulation of the past based on what they actually know about from studying, the certain objects that they are holding, such as the Skywalker lightsaber, and even Luke Skywalker's holocron, and stuff around those lines. And not just that, we also know that Episode 9 is going to be a film that's going to introduce all these different types of Force lore, including the Jedi, the Sith, and everything that comes in between. Now, in my point of view, like I have always said, I think that this is a bad move by Disney and Lucasfilm by not even thinking about putting these back into the cut of the film, while George Lucas is piecing it back together as we speak, where they now only have 31 days to go until the release of this movie. And we got the official premiere coming out in early December, so we don't have much longer to go until Disney and Lucasfilm can actually get this movie on track. Now, like I say, the reappearance of Tatooine, Mustafar, Naboo, Endor, Octu, all those worlds that are actually a part of the 8 Star Wars movies and more, that were actually handpicked by George Lucas, are not a part of the flash fights in the current cut of the film so far, and that it's only going to be used for the new worlds in Episode 9. And to me, I feel like that is a very bad decision. I think that that's not the right path to go by Disney and Lucasfilm, because in my point of view, using nostalgia is a great thing as long as it has purpose behind it, like I said before. So the flash fights, are going to be pretty much, reworked for this movie, but we are getting a lot of lightsaber action in this film regardless. There's actually said to be, at minimum, 4 lightsaber duels in the Rise of Skywalker. We got the one on Pasaana, we got the one on the second Death Star wreckage, we got the one on the Death Star wreckage, as well as in Palpatine's throne room, right? We also have the one inside of Kylo Ren's chambers on board of his Ravager Star Destroyer, as we saw in the final trailer. And not just that, we also have the saber duel, between, of course, both, Rey and Dark Rey, and how they're going to combat against Palpatine. Lots of lightsaber action in this movie regardless. J.J. Abrams really wants to go out, all out, regardless of what happened to the initial cut of Episode 9. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.